All right, y'all, welcome on back. Today we're going to be looking at all the bosses in Act 2. We'll be going over some of their movement patterns, some of their abilities, and I will also be going over this video's build, which is different than our all Act 1 bosses. So you can see below that we are using reflexes, and then judgment. So reflexes are those knives that orbit us. Judgment, all enemies in target area are judged, reducing the resistances, which is nice because we are using an elemental build. We're using a build that has fire, lightning, and plague. Using slow time, which is going to be good because area 2 is a projectile heavy area, and we have a relic that will help replenish our mana while we stand in this bubble. We have closed body. It is our defense. Okay, in some of these fights, it's nice to have a defensive build, especially against Urubu, and we'll get to that. Our main attack is going to be the repeater. It's a marksman projectile fire damage, so keep that in mind. The only one, actually, I don't think any of these. No, none of these are physical. They're all elemental. Yeah. Yep. All right, let's take a look at our relics here. So we have our resistance build relic. We have last prayer. Enemies killed by repeater explode, dealing plague damage. So that's where we get one of our plague ones. We have Memorial Candle. This turns our reflex orbiting knives into lightning. This recovers mana from our closed bodies. This allows judgment to automatically on position of enemies when they die affected by judgment. So it's going to cover a larger area. Reduces our repeater cost. Our damage is now fire, and it launches grenades. Bleed, and reflexes cause bleed. Alright. We also have ignited enemies. Deal more damage because we are on fire as well. And evasion, which is going to help us from getting hit. So every time we shoot, we get a bonus to evasion. Alright, let's get stuck in, and we'll meet up again at the first mini-boss, the Ancient Burrower. Alright, here we are at the Ancient Burrower. You just have to clear these waves. It is the first mini-boss, so everything's going to be easy to kill. Ooh. We're going to take Book of Sin cooldown. So when we do that, see how our judgment is now spreading around? Yeah, buddy. Alright. Now the Ancient Burrower is going to die quick. It's your typical worm. There's nothing surprising about it. Look, it shoots these little orbs. It's going to spit at us. Sometimes it's going to launch a little ground effect. There it goes. And that's it. That's this entire boss. Alright. Or mini boss, I should say. Very, very simple. Not a lot of health. You can clear through it very easily. Ooh. Hey, more cooldown. Ooh, fire and lightning resist. That's nice. We should shred that. And in area of effect. Yeah, let's take that. Alright, so we'll see you on the next mini boss, which I believe is Tamarindo, which is an easier boss than the Ancient Burrower. Alright, see you there. Alright, here we are at Tamarindo. And there are no waves. You just jump into it. And what he does is he'll summon a bunch of clones, and he'll bounce around. They'll fire, so you got a little bit of bullet hell in here. You know, that's why we have our bubble. And that's also why we have our slowdown. Just watch your mini-map in the upper corner, and the red skull will point you to where he is. So we know he's here. And he is weak. Now, the first time you fight him, he's going to run away. The second time you fight him, he's going to be with another story plot. But after you fight him the second time, he just becomes like what you saw. All right, and yeah, it really is that easy on Tamarindo. Much easier than the Ancient Burrower, and the Ancient Burrower was cake. All right, so we will see you on the next boss, which I believe is Horsehead. All right, here we are for Horsehead, and just like all the others except for Tamarindo, we're going to have to clear waves of dudes. Stand here and be a machine gun turret. Yeah, we got the repeaters mana cost so low with that relic that you just don't see it going down. Horsehead is pretty easy. If it's your first time fighting him, he'll be a little bit of a damage soak, you know, take a little bit more effort to kill. But he's still not the first main boss. Alright, so he throws these red arrows, and then he steps back and charges. So when he does that step back, he charges. And then he throws arrows. He also summons guys. He's going to throw. He's going to just charge. He's going to throw. He's summoning. He bends down like that, then he's going to charge. And that is his entire moveset. So let's take care of him. With our daggers, we got a little bit of lightning damage on him. And that's it. Ooh, let's see what we're going to do. Let's do Plague Resist Shred. Alright. And that's it for Horsehead. Next up, we have Urubu, our first real boss. We'll see you there. Alright, here we are with Urubu. This one we do not have to do a kill waves of enemies. Now, Urubu, I feel he's the first real boss. Because he is tanky compared to the other ones. So, summons dudes. He does this drop, so easy to ignore. Or easy to dodge, I should say. Because it's a big telegraph on the ground. There it is again. Let's clear these guys out. Alright, so he's just like with Horsehead. He's going to step back before he does his charge, and he does it almost always 3 times. Then pinions, you can move around them. They do follow a bit, okay, especially if you're up close to them. Now, if you're using something like double knives, you can swirl around Urubu, and those pinions, or those arrows, I call them pinions, will miss. Alright. There he goes. Throws it again. And he only throws it when he hovers and then throws his wing. If he's on the ground, he won't throw him. Alright. Let's get to work. So, right after Horsehead, on your way to Urubu, that's when the normal enemies on the floor start getting a little tankier, which is why we take our bubble effect, our defensive spell we talked about at the beginning, and Judgment. Judgment just shreds their resistances and makes them easier to kill. Now, like I said before we start Act 2, you're going to get a lot of this, a lot of projectiles being sent at you, which is why we need our bubble, right? And also, on normal enemies, or elites, it'll slow down their projectiles. Not so much on mini-bosses or bosses. But you can see how much less damage I'm doing to Urubu versus our other bosses, mini bosses. Let's see. Take damage up on our knives. Alright, that's it for Urubu. And we'll see you again when we get to the next boss. Alright, here we are. Now, I can never remember the name of this boss, but we are going to have to clear a wave. This boss is the king of AoEs. Alright, they are a giant cannon. Ooh. Yes. They're like this guy, but big. All these projectiles, so that's why we take our bubble. And because these guys get tankier, that's why we take Judgment. I do Time Warp just to slow them down so I don't get overwhelmed. I mean, I am pretty speedy, but I'm also terrible at dodging projectiles. And by slowing them down, I just can, like, get some breathing room. Get some lightning damage on the board with our knives, our reflexes. Alright, here he is. Bearers of Torment. Like big guy carrying a cannon. Little guys are bearers of ruin. Alright, so as you can tell, shoots mortars. AoE, dodge the red circles. Summons dudes to make it a little bit more annoying to dodge his little mortar drops. Of course, they're going to follow you. Get this ruins guy out of here. But yeah, that's basically him. You don't really want to focus on the ads more than you need to. Kind of want to just focus on taking him down. He is a little bit of a damage sponge. You see all those areas that he drops the big mortars on, they're going to continue to cause damage for a while. So you want to avoid those. You know, it's the same stuff we've seen in other levels, just with more damage, right? Because we saw that with the merchant in Act 1. Oh, he's almost dead. But again, you know, Judgment helps with that a lot because we're shredding his resistances to everything else. And that's it. Very simple boss. Just stay out of his AoE, his mortar drops, and, you know, only take down the ads when you absolutely need to. Alright, so we'll see you on the next boss. Alright, here we are, the Minister of War, our last boss. The big boss. Alright, so he has a spin to win. His big thing to watch out for, though, let's see if he does it, is that. And he does it 3 times, and he leaves behind... Ooh, he did it 4. Oh my gosh. One more than I remember. And leaves behind those AoE effects. Now he does summon guys. Alright, so how do you tell when he's going to do that charge? He'll hold his sword vertical in front of his face. Alright. Let's see if we can get him to do it again. There he goes. So 1, and he's going to come right toward you, so remember to move. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see he does a wind up before the whirlwind. Alright, raises his hand to summon his minions. And there he goes again. He loves doing that. 4. And then he raises his hand again to do an AoE drop. All of that AoE damage just for you. So you really want to stay immobile on this boss. Ow. But look at all these areas. Like, I know some of those areas are mine, but yeah. Now if you use a controller like me, his minions are pretty annoying. Just because the soft block wants to target them instead of what I want to target, which is the Master or the Minister of War. And as you can see, he's pretty dang tanky. Double knives is a very good skill for that. There he goes. You can see he's raised his sword, and so I knew he was going to do that. He's summoning his little mortar drops. So his attacks are a combination of all the other attacks you've seen, plus the whirlwind. So we've seen the charge in Horsehead. We've seen the summon in the cannon. Or the mortars in the cannon. We've seen the summon in pretty much every one of them. Stop it. Alright, so notice if I get behind the pillar, this little gravestone here, or whatever it is, his charge ability, he can't get through it. He goes around it. Oh, actually, he got through it that time. That's the first time I've seen him do that. Get away from me. Ow. I'm not too worried about his attacks, though. I have really, really high conviction. Whenever I use... Oh, God. I forgot about those guys. Alright. Instead of his normal guard summons, there are times, and it is random, as far as I can tell, that he summons these 4 really big dudes that just charge you and explode. These 4 big kamikaze guys. It's not every other summon either. No. But like I was saying, I'm not too concerned about getting hurt unless I stand in an area too long. I can tank some of his hits, because with this build, I really go heavy conviction. Any build where I have to keep my distance like this. Actually, any build, really, any build, I go heavy conviction. It's just the best defense you can get, besides health regen. So you summon the same guys twice in a row, right? So it's not every other summon, right? And there he summons them again. So I don't know if there is a pattern to those guys for summons, but yeah, it seems pretty random. See, again, I think it's almost like an RNG thing. Same with his attack patterns, as far as when he's going to do which attack. You know, he's not going to do them in a set pattern, which, you know, he probably shouldn't. Ooh, we got him stunned. You know, it keeps you on your toes if he doesn't, right? I was hanging out with a game designer friend of mine today. We're working on a project together. And we were talking about the Metal Gear Solid board game and how when you do a boss fight, it uses cards and it stacks those cards in a random order, but then after that, every time that card deck replenishes, it's in the same order, so you know what to expect. I think that's how it went. Which in a board game, that's nice. In a video game like this, oh, there's those guys. A video game like this, or like Dark Souls, you know, anything like that, you're not gonna want that. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh, I guess it's 5 guys, not 4. So, not the highest damage build. But like I said, I needed to choose a build that worked, that I thought would... Oh, get out of here. But I wanted to choose a build that did synergize well, especially with some of the relics that you're going to have, or might have at this point. Because my current build it's just too much. The relics that I have for it are all rank 5 and everything. Alright, so that's it. That is all the mini bosses and bosses for Act 2. thank you for coming along. I hope you found this useful. All right. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your builds in the comments below as well. Okay? Have a great day. Take care of yourself, because remember, you're worth it. Cheers.